Her next artwork is also at the Galleria Borghese, also by Bernini, also paid for by Cardinal Borghese, and it's one of my favorites of all time. It's amazing, and I think you're going to love it after I show it to you and we talk about it in this class. What is it, Miss Cortez? Here. It's Bernini's Apollo and Daphne. It's a marble sculpture. It's in its original location, the Galleria Borghese in Rome, in Italy. And this piece is exactly what I was thinking about when I said that Bernini is able to make stone behave in different ways. He's able to make marble move. He's able to make time pass by simply existing in front of an artwork. What is this, Ms. Cortez? What are we looking at? Okay, I'm going to tell you the story using just this one image, and then we will walk around this sculpture again so we can better understand and appreciate the genius that is Bernini. Okay, so the story is an ancient Greek story or ancient Greek myth, and it's about the ancient Greek god Apollo. Now, you have to understand that according to the Greeks, all the gods and goddesses are gorgeous. They're extremely handsome. They're perfect specimens. And Apollo, being a god, he's dreamy and he's extremely talented. He's the god of the arts. So, he's songs, poetry, art, painting, sculpture. Oh, he's just so talented. And so attractive, and he sometimes will be seen wearing a silvered crown of sunbeams with a silvered bow. And he just walks around. Everybody just falls at his feet. He can have his pick of any guy or girl. So yeah, Apollo, super dreamy. Well, one day he's walking through a forest when he comes across Cupid. Now, Cupid is another god. He's the god of love. And you might be familiar with Cupid around Valentine's Day. He's that little fat baby with the arrows. Well, for the Greeks, his name is Eros. And he is typically not a baby, but more of like a preteen or like a 13-year-old, 14-year-old kind of age. And he does have his arrows. So imagine 13-year-old god of love, Eros. The Romans called him Cupid. And Apollo. Apollo sees him, and Apollo's like, Cupid, what are you doing? I'm going to call him Cupid just because it's in my head. Cupid, what are you up to? And Cupid's like, leave me alone. And then Apollo's like, oh, you got some arrows there? What are you going to do with your little arrows? You're such a kid. You probably don't even know what to do with these. And he kind of picks up Cupid's arrows, drops them, and then he shoves Cupid. Cupid's like, stop it. You know what? You could just stop it. And then Apollo's like, is that your comeback, loser? And he walks away. And as Apollo walks away, Cupid says to Apollo's back, I can inflict more pain with my arrows than you can with yours. And with that, Cupid takes out a gold-tipped arrow. Now, this gold-tipped arrow, if you're struck by it, you will fall madly in love with the next person you see. So he takes that arrow and he aims it right at Apollo. And it hits Apollo, and Apollo's like, whatever. He keeps on walking. Then Cupid takes out a second arrow from his quiver. But this is a lead-tipped arrow. And if you're struck by Cupid's lead-tipped arrow, you will fall into utter disgust and horror for the next person you see. So he takes his lead-tipped arrow and he aims it up past Apollo. Let's go this way. Past Apollo. And it shoots out over the forest and it lands on a nymph named Daphne. Now, what's a nymph? A nymph is kind of like a minor goddess. They're like little forest fairies, but without wings, kind of a thing. So she's just like this beautiful naked woman just running through the forest and growing flowers and trees. And she gets hit by Cupid's lead-tipped arrow. And she's like, ow! So then Apollo walking, doesn't see anybody, and he comes into a clearing in the forest at the same time that Daphne appears. And Daphne looks up, she sees Apollo, and she falls into utter disgust with him. At the same moment, Apollo looks up and he falls into absolute lust for her. He must have her. So he starts to run across this forest clearing trying to catch her. At the same time, Daphne, she turns and she runs away. She's running, she's running, she's running, she's running, she's running. Apollo, he's fast on her heels. She's screaming for help. Her dad is a river god. And so she's like, Dad, 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 get me, help me, help me, help me. Her dad hears her pleas because you know Apollo, he's going to come, he's going to try to catch her and kiss her. And she's disgusted by him because of Cupid's arrow. So at that moment, when Apollo is about to wrap his fingers around that warm, soft waist, she turns into a tree. And he doesn't touch her waist. Instead, he feels the rough bark of the tree. But he can still hear her heart beating inside and feel her lungs as they breathe. So he whispers to the tree, he will love her for always. And as a testament to his love, he takes a string of her branch and he wears it as a crown of laurels. She turned into a laurel tree. And that crown of leaves that you often see Roman emperors wearing, that is in reference to Apollo, who took a crown of laurel leaves from Daphne and wore it. What a story! I know! How is it possible that you can do this in sculpture? It's Bernini. He's a genius. He can do it. So we see Apollo, and this is the moment when he is catching up to Daphne, and she's screaming in terror, and they walk around. This is your original view of the statue. Originally, the statue was placed at the bottom of a staircase, and so you imagine you are invited to Cardinal Borghese's beautiful mansion in Rome. You have a glass of Chianti and you're chatting it up and you're walking around the house, you're looking at all the art, and you come upon this, okay? You come upon this from the base of a staircase so it controls your view. You see a man running after a woman, and you can see he's running because look at that fabric. It's billowing in the wind. As you walk towards and around, you can understand that this is Apollo. Miss Cortez, how do I know that's Apollo? It looks like Apollo. We'll talk about it. Very good question, but don't interrupt. Here's Apollo, and he's running after Daphne, and she is trying to flee in horror and disgust. Her mouth is open as she's screaming. Remember, in art, anytime you see a mouth open, there's a sound coming out. So here she's going, Father, Father, help me, help me, help me. Ah, he's coming for me. And Apollo's like, babe, you're so hot. I love you. I want to be with you. At that moment, her father has started her transformation. Her toes are quite literally taking root. At the same time, her skin is turning into bark. Look at this. I'm going to zoom in. Apollo's fingers are touching bark. This right here, the soft flesh of her stomach, he has not yet touched. And she's spreading out and away from him. There's tears running down her cheeks. Her hair has sprouted leaves. Her fingers are turning into branches. This is unbelievable. By the time we finish our turn around the sculpture, the transformation is almost complete. It's as if Apollo is holding on to a tree. That is amazing. That is what I was talking about with the idea of Bernini making a marble move. As you move around it, you see the story from beginning to end. you see a transformation in a static piece of marble. Now, this piece is beautiful. It's also for a cardinal. What? Why would a cardinal want a statue of an ancient Greek myth? Great question to ask. Good question. You over there, student? Yeah? You asked it, huh? Okay. It's not that Cardinal Borghese worships Apollo or follows any of these myths. He's very clearly aligned with the Christian faith, and specifically the Catholic faith. Why do you think he would have this? Is it to show that he's smart? Okay, yeah, he's very well educated. Beneath, on the pedestal that it stands on at the base, it reads, let me find it in my notes. It reads, where is it in my notes? It reads, those who love to pursue fleeting forms of pleasure, in the end find only leaves and bitter berries in their hands. Those who love to pursue the fleeting forms of pleasure, like Apollo pursuing Daphne, in the end find only leaves and bitter berries in their hands. She transforms. Now let's apply this to a larger moral. Those who seek immediate pleasure in the physical world will only have bitter berries and unpleasant things happen to them. Like in this religious war, you think it might be a good idea to go to the Protestant faith? Well, in the end, it's going to cost you. It's going to be bad. So here for Cardinal Borghese, we can apply it as simply a moral of not seeking those pleasures, because in the end, it's going to cause you some major consequences. And we can apply that to the larger religious conflict of the time. Oh, you might think the idea of leaving the Catholic faith is a good idea, but it's the wrong faith and you're going to go to hell, according to Cardinal Borghese. So very clever in the use of a Greek myth and its application to this current situation he's in. It's brilliant. It's brilliant. Now, I will tell you about Cardinal Borghese. This is another of Bernini's works. It's a portrait of Cardinal Borghese, and I love Bernini and I love telling stories about him, so I'm going to say this story. Borghese, a friend of Bernini, he hired Bernini to do this portrait, this marble portrait of him. You obviously can see that Bernini is extremely talented. He bought this marble. He did some sketches of Cardinal Borghese. Oh, by the way, Bernini's technique of portraiture, he liked to take sketches of the person, like do quick studies as they were talking or doing their business, so that he could capture some kind of like essence of the sitter. I should go this way. Essence of the sitter, right? So here we see the Borghese cardinal. He's wearing his cardinal robes. He's got his cardinal hat on, and he's in the act of talking. You can see his mouth is open a little bit. Now, when Bernini started on this statue, he was carving this piece of marble, and he noticed that there was a flaw in the marble. Do you remember we talked about flaws with the David by Michelangelo? It's a discoloration in the marble. And these are not ideal, especially in portraits, because they can be in awkward places where they might disfigure or mar. And that's exactly what happened with the marble. That flaw cut right across the cardinal's forehead. So Bernini, he's so brilliant, he knows, and so he immediately stops and he orders a new piece of marble. And he gets to work on the new marble, no flaw. This one right here. Miss Cortez, why are you bringing this up? Because Bernini, he's such a naughty little boy. He invites the cardinal to come and view the finished portrait. He finished the flawed marble. He puts the finished flawed marble portrait under a blanket on a table, and he's like, "Hey, Borghese, come on in, check it out, check it out." And Borghese's like, "I'm so excited." And then Bernini lifts it off, and it's the flawed one. And Borghese's like, this is, wow, just right there. It's just And Bernini's like, what, huh? Well, you don't like it? Okay, well then how about this? And then he brings out the non-flawed portrait. And then Borghese is like, oh, you got me, you got me. And they're like, got you. So funny, so funny. All right. Well, before we end our discussion of this Apollo, I told you interrupted me, right? I said, we're going to talk about why it looks like Apollo. Do you remember? Do you remember the Apollo Belvedere? The Apollo Belvedere, which had just recently been discovered that Albert Dürer used as his model for Adam? Yeah, that one. It is the same hairstyle, the same body proportions. That is Apollo. That is Apollo. If we were hanging out at Borghese's house, we would be well educated. We would certainly know about the discovery of the Apollo Belvedere and then make a very quick connection to Bernini's Apollo. That's Apollo, that's Apollo. So what we see here is a connection with the ancient Greek world in this visual manifestation of Apollo. And we, sipping on our Chiantis, would be like, oh, I get it. Yeah, that's Apollo. Now, you might think, couldn't this have been easier in painting? Great question. How about I show you some paintings? Oh, here, wait. Just so you can see it again, how beautiful it is. This is the palace, Galleria Borghese Palace. Here, this is interesting, right? This is also Apollo and Daphne. This is done during the Italian Renaissance. We see some typical Renaissance stuff, perspective going on. We got some figures running. I don't know about that. It looks a little awkward. Usually when I show this in class, I get a few chuckles because people are like, this looks ridiculous. I know. How about after? So this one was done before Bernini. Let's look at paintings done 100 years after Bernini. Maybe they're better. This is Tiepolo. This is heavily based on Bernini. The figure of Daphne is definitely based on Bernini's Daphne and her transformation. But we have more characters. Maybe that would help with the story. We have her dad, the river god. We know he's a river god because he's got his water source of his river right here. And look at, there's mischievous, bratty Cupid who caused all this. There's Daphne and there's Apollo. Looking very Apollo Belvedere of him, isn't he? I don't know about you. This one doesn't impress me as much as Bernini's. Okay, one more. Here. Another by Tiepolo. Cupid. River god dad. Daphne running away. It's good. It's good. It's definitely not Bernini good. You might be thinking, Miss Cortez, you seem to have a thing for Bernini. I do. I really do. He's really, really talented. And I can't stop thinking about how I want to talk about Bernini all the time with you guys. But I'm going to stop this now and we're going to look at one more Bernini before we continue with Baroque.